Hi there, this is Tim from Racing Central, and today I'm going to talk about the AI in older racing games. And when I'm talking about AI, I'm not talking about the kind of AI that you're probably talking about, but I am talking about the artificial intelligence or the computer-controlled opponents that you would race against in your mostly single-player racing. I want to give you an idea of how it used to work and kind of the overall topic and reason for that is because I do believe in a lot of cases, actually, not just with AI, that developers in recent years are making things a lot more complex for themselves, trying to think more complex than they need to. And overall, I'm not even sure whether that complexity is giving us a better experience. I think if you go back and you play a lot of these older sims considered retro sims right now. The AI is obviously more simplistic. They will have patterns that you can recognize when you're racing against them. But if you choose to race them in a realistic manner and not take advantage of those kind of failures and things, then you really can have fantastic races that I think sometimes are really difficult to find with AI in a lot of modern titles. There are certain sims that do AI really well right now, especially that have been improved in the last sort of year or so. Some of them with multi-class racing, which was always difficult. And yeah, I just kind of want to go over and educate if I can, and then I would really love to hear some comments or to read some comments from people about how they feel about the AI in particular sims, whether they agree with me, whether they have experience with the AI that I'm talking about, and just kind of go forward from there. So what I have done here is I have downloaded this chalkboard app, and I think it's probably one of the easiest ways to take you through how AI has generally worked. So going back to Indy 500 first, let's do that. You have your oval, obviously. You do have an apron to the racetrack, which is the flat area of the racetrack at the bottom, and then you have grass on the inside, and you have a wall on the outside, which is obviously a hard stop for racing. What you'll notice when you're running this sim is that the AI will use the apron a little bit in the center of the turn. They generally won't ever use it going into the turn, exiting the turn, and that's because they've been told where their racing zone is. They also won't ever go out towards the wall, and you know they will on. Let me just extend this a little bit here. If you think about the straight that comes right before the turn, um, so the apron just kind of disappears there. So let's see. What I'll do is I'll draw out where the AI will generally always be. And they're going to be from here. They're going to go down towards the apron, and then they're going to start going out again. They'll come in from the right-hand side on the straight, but they won't ever utilize the outside of the turn. So basically, the AI has been told where its raceable area actually is. And then within that, they have been told what the fastest line is, which would be, which would be approximately something, I don't know, like that, where they're coming in from the outside wall, they're going in towards the apex, and then they're going out towards the wall on the next straight. And that's basically as simplistic as the AI is in Indy 500 when it's by itself. What you obviously have though is you have more than one car. And with Indy 500, it's quite simplistic. You can get like three wide, for example. The car on the inside will be told there's a car outside, so stay inside. This car will be told there's a car left, there's a car right, go straight. And then the car on the right will be told that there's cars on the left. What you won't generally see is a lot of the AI going three wide in the turns. And that's because basically down the straight, this pink area gets a little bit wider, so that they're able to go three wide. And then generally it tightens up as they go towards the turn, and then one of them has to get out of it, basically, in the same way that they would if you, as the player, stuck your nose in there. That they would give you the space. That's what they're going to do. You can get really good racing against the AI, but what this AI is absolutely missing is what was later called like a panic zone. So basically, if the track is blocked in Indy 500, they won't react. They'll just slam straight into you, which is obviously what we all did as kids, right? We just basically crashed out the entire field, and that was how we won the race. But from let's see, I think they were in IndyCar racing in 1993. But basically, you have panic zones. So basically, if there was a car stopped right here, if there was another one stopped right here, in Indy 500, they're just going to pile into that because there's no realistic space for them to get around it. But in later titles, they have a panic zone. So they are told that when the track ahead is blocked, everywhere between the blue line is a panic zone. So they might come into the turn and they would slow down and find their way around. And that's really the basics of how the Papyrus AI effectively worked up until NASCAR Racing 2003. The kind of the change to that is, if you imagine this as the Watkins Glen chicane where there's grass on the inside and stuff like that, is that the panic zone might go across the grass too. Or if this wasn't a wall and it was just like grass here, then you might have a panic zone that's all the way out there. But one of the things that I think is important to recognize is that they did actually go backwards a little bit after Indy 500. Indy 500, obviously, it has three wide starts. You have to have support for three wide racing. But if you ever played any of the IndyCar titles, NASCAR titles from Papyrus, you'll notice there was a problem with three wide racing with the AI, which is that they never did it. And the reason for that is because the inside of the turn was so much faster than the outside. So you could never have a high line effectively. So they minimized that to two lanes. And they actually, let me clear that. So let's think Daytona. You have your Daytona track, you have your apron. For a raceable line, so for a raceable zone, they would only give them 2 lanes worth of space, or just over 2 lanes worth of space, so that they could move around a little bit. But you generally wouldn't get 3 wide racing unless you, the player, forced them into the area that they could be kind of pushed or panicked to. So they would race within the pink and they would panic within the yellow. So if you forced them up or down, they would still be able to cope with that. But generally there would only be the 2 lanes. And obviously you would have the single racing line that would generally be the inside line in the turns and going out towards the wall if the wall carried on like that. And basically that just meant that you got your two wide racing. Now, a lot of people didn't like that it was only two wide racing, so they would do little tricks. And an example of that, I'll just draw it at the side here. Okay, so let's say you have your Daytona banking there. You would have people that would put the inside racing area or the inside racing line there, and they would put the outside racing line there, and then they would put the fast line maybe here. Because the AI would ignore the pink when it was on the blue, when there was no car to its left, right, whatever. So basically what this did is it encouraged 1, 2, 3 cars to be side by side. And unfortunately what that did obviously is that anytime there was a car by itself, it would get shuffled back in the pack, and then they would go low or whatever, and then all the cars would you would get this rotation going on, either one way or the other, depending on which oval it was. And yeah, it was great to have 3 wide racing and stuff like that, but it actually diminished the experience, which is what I'm really trying to talk about here, is that it kind of was worse when it was more realistic, when there was more to it. When they tried to make 3 wide racing, it just didn't work as well. These days, obviously, you have different tarmacs. You might have an outside racing line and stuff like that actually rubbers in, where it actually might be faster to go on the outside and stuff like that. But back at these points, it just didn't work. Another thing that can sometimes be something to think about is if you have a track with, let's say, a sharp turn like that. If your racing line is starting from the outside, obviously, going across the apex, going out to the wall, and then you give them an outside racing area like that, and an inside racing area like that. Obviously, that allows them to overtake. You know, the car behind is still going to have a lane when they get to the apex. The outside car on the apex is going to have a lane, and when they exit, what was the inside car is going to have a lane. Now, what you could do to increase the kind of racing down the straight is you could make this go like this, so that they would be maybe multiple cars wide going down towards the apex. You might actually do something like this, but what we found when we were editing the AI at the time, or at least what I found, is that all this did is made issues, because you would have kind of 1 car, 2 car, 3 car, 4 car maybe, and they're all going here, and then all that happens is that everybody has to get slowed down. Even if you've given them out towards the wall here or anything like that, if you've given them the entire track, they still have to get around this turn and navigate each other. So all that would happen is that you would have a train of cars that would all be slow, and basically you as the human player could just overtake them all. And it didn't matter what AI rating you were set at. If you were set well over 100%, as alien speeds and stuff like that, they would all just stack up on top of each other. And you could just drive past them all while they were all lining up for what would effectively be their turn to go around the turn. Um, so giving the extra complexity here, giving them the extra entry space and stuff like that, and not just kind of telling them the basics of what to do, you know, that actually gave you a worse experience. And you yourself gave yourself a worse experience if you took advantage of these things. There was so many titles, even, pretty recently, that would release with AI that stacked up like this. And yeah, in every case, you're only taking away from your own experience if you go ahead and just go down the middle and overtake 15 cars in a single turn, right? So yeah, that's really kind of all I wanted to get across is how stuff like that actually worked. I do think it might be helpful to. There was actually a tool that was made by, I think it was made by Nim Cross, who is the chief steward for iRacing. If you think about the AI lines in the way that I've just shown them, right? The way that it looked when you actually made AI back then was that it was on a graph, and basically it was positional data. So it would go, let's see, so you would go towards the apex, away from the apex. So if you imagine that this track has two turns, right? Basically, the track would have coordinates, and wherever you were plotted on this graph, that would be the position of the car relative to what would usually be the center line of the racetrack. When you created AI, quite often people wouldn't match very well where their car position was at the start-finish line, starting the lap versus finishing the lap. So sometimes you would see cars kind of jump to the side at the blending point. And then basically what you would also have too is you would have kind of pit lines and things like that. So let's see, what's the easiest way to show this? So at Indy, for example, you would have your normal AI lines that go around the oval. And then if you were talking about Indy with all of the inner lanes for speeding up, slowing down, stuff like that, you would have another AI line that that obviously went from the start finish line in the pit lane, went through the pit lane, went to the speed up lane, and then blended with the racing line, and then went back into the slow down lane again, and back into the pit lane. So if you wanted to get a pit entry, pit exit, you basically would have a racing line and you would have a pitting line, and their blend point between one and the other would be in the middle of the back straight. So they could obviously switch back to the two racing. So that's how that would work, and this is how it would be plotted in an AI editor and stuff, and you would have to modify this. But how something like that would look on this graph would be probably something like this. You would be obviously in the pit lane, you would be in the speed up lanes, and then on the back straight you might join with the racing line there, and then back in the other lanes. So hopefully that visualizes it. I don't know if it will or not, but yeah. So the historically the Papyrus tracks, they would have the race line, the inner outer race line, the inner outer panic line, the pitting line, and that's all I can remember. But yeah, those are the basics of that. Like, how do you feel about AI recently? Do you feel like you can get a better race in some older sims? And are you the kind of person that if you saw the AI stacking up, would you overtake 10 of them? Or are you the person that would kind of try to not take advantage of that so you could, once the AI gets away from each other a little bit, you could have a better race? Yeah, leave a comment. Let me know. I hope this was educational to someone at least. You can still find like LP Edit. I have it on my website to download. So it runs in DOS, obviously. Yeah, you can still do all of this editing and stuff, and you just drive the lap, export the replay, convert it, and make yourself some AI. But yeah, apart from this, the only other thing that was interesting was editing the driver values, which is kind of the first modding that I ever did with NASCAR Racing 1 was the first one, actually. I used to get Autosport magazine in the UK. I used to scroll to the back where they would only print like the top 20 finishers from the previous race weekend. And I would edit NASCAR Racing 1 to match the results of the previous weekend, go out, do my race. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And when I got the internet, I went to I'm not sure how to say this, but the IWWW Cars website. It was part of the US Pits, I think, at that point. Would download the cars that were missing from the software, the skins and stuff, and yeah, that's what kind of got me started. But yeah, I would really like to hear from you, like whether you think that AI has in some ways kind of gone backwards, and a lot of other features too. I think the developers are adding a lot of complexity that I don't know if it's making the difference that makes it worth it. Like, I always wondered to myself if I could put an iRacing, like the old Daytona, the really bumpy Daytona from iRacing, if I could put that into NASCAR Racing 2003, how much of a difference am I really going to feel? Those are the kind of things that I always kind of wonder about. It's been 23 years, and I'm just curious whether we've got 23 years worth of development here, and in some cases, should we? Because, like, for the examples like I gave, like the too wide limitation on some of this AI was actually better for you than allowing three wide racing, where it just introduced the issues that then came from three wide racing. Because you've always got to tell one AI driver to back out of it, right? So there's, yeah. Do you think we've moved forward enough? I don't think so, because I feel like I can still have so much fun with this old stuff. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you have any other topics or anything like that, feel free to suggest them, and I'll see you next time.